Hey guys, Travis with PMM again. Today we're going to go over the install of our staccato C2 and P compensators that we just came out with. So install on these are going to be a little different than the rest of our compensator line, just due to the nature of the gun. So you're going to want to start with just disassembling your staccato. You should all be familiar with this by now. So this is going to be a little different between the C2 and the P. The P has a capture recoil spring, the C2 does not. As far as getting the comp mounted, you're going to want to start with the barrel and the slide, just to have it as a reference point. Make sure the barrel's locked into battery so it's straight. You can thread your comp on, just figure out where it is with no shims. So this one's timed basically perfectly with no shims, so that's good. We don't have to use very much to get it on there. But as you can see, the barrel can move around a ton in the slide. So you just want to make sure it's perfectly straight when you do actually get this timed up. But you can actually remove the barrel from the slide, so you're working a little better in open air here. Also, another difference with these is we are sending these compensators out with a Surefire 556 half 28 shim kit. You're looking at a single 20 thousandths shim, four 5 thousandths shims, and I believe 6 1,000ths shims. So a little different sizing than our standard kits, but you're getting a lot more engagement surface on these with these bull barrels. So from here, it's going to be your typical, you're going to trial and error some shims, see what kit you're going to need, what combination. And you can thread on your comp to where it stops. I don't have any shims in this just for demonstration purposes, but you're going to go to your vise. Please don't use a vise that's not attached to anything like this. You're familiar with our Mushis. We've got one for the staccato. So here's where the install is going to be a little different. Once you get your timing correct with the shims, for one, you're not going to want to go super far out like you can get away with some of our other comps, because the clamping surface for your wrench is much smaller on the staccato. So again, you're going to want to use the notch in the Mushi here to line up roughly where your front sight would be, and rely a little bit more on the Loctite than really reefing this thing down. So once you're in the vise, you've got your comp pre-timed, you're going to want to grab your wrench here, and you're going to want to clamp on to the lug of the barrel. Now this is a much smaller surface than you're typically going to see on the sides of barrels, like on a Glock or something. So that's why we're saying you don't want to really reef on this. You've got more surface area to rely on these. You don't need to really reef them on. So you can clamp onto your lug here, tighten it down. Now you can visually look down the barrel, see if this lug is perfectly in line with your spring box on the comp. And the final check for that is going to be when you slide it back in the slide. Make sure your barrel's nice and straight, and make sure the comp's nice and straight. If it is, throw your recoil spring back in. Again, we'll show the difference between the C2 and the P for that. If it's not straight, if it's off to one of these sides here, throw it back in the vise and the Mushi real quick, get it tightened up to the direction you need to go, and reinstall. So just a note on these barrels, as I'm sure you guys know, they're not cheap. So when you are clamping on this lug here, I want to reiterate, you don't need to gorilla, these things on. They are going to be a little bit more fragile than grabbing the hood of the barrel. So be extra careful that you're not using all your tough guy force to put this thing on. And also, please stop using vice grips. We keep getting emails from the guys trying to install comps of vice grips. We have an install service for you. We can do it, or find a buddy with a vise and a good adjustable wrench, have him help you out. But install is going to be crucial on these, because we all know how expensive these guns are. We're not going to be liable for you guys going Gorilla Strength on those. All right, so now we're just going to go over the differences between the install on the C2 as well as the P. So the one difference between installing the comp on the P and the C2, other than they are actually a different comp because the barrel's set at a slightly different angle in the slide, is the C2 uses a non-captured recoil spring. So when you want to pull these apart, push forward on your recoil spring, and that'll come out your guide rod, your spring, and then there's a little bushing here to keep all that together. When it comes to the P, they use a captured system, so to take these apart, you're going to want to unlock your barrel, push forward, push up on this little lever here, and that'll kind of free everything up. Recoil spring can come out, and then you can go to work with installing your comp on that. Other than that, install is going to be exactly the same between the two. That's all there is to it.